When I meet a buyer who wants acreage on a budget, I automatically think of Altura Homes. Over an acre for less than $550. Okay, yeah, you got my attention anytime. But there's a lot more to Altura Homes than that, so we need to dig into the details. It's starting with, okay, is this even a builder you can trust? Are we in a, here today, gone tomorrow type of situation? Or is my new construction warranty gonna actually mean something over time? Well, Altura Homes, you should know this about them, they're a family-owned builder. So we are not talking about publicly traded here, okay? But they have been around for a while. They were founded back in 1979. They were founded in Texas, and they only build in Texas. So if you've never seen them outside the state, that's why, okay? They are small and regional. They've definitely earned a few bragging rights over the years. From 2016 to 2020, Altura hit a high note, pulling in multiple awards, okay? We're talking numerous $5 million, $10 million, and $15 million sales awards. And that tells us they've had solid momentum at different points, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. But let's evaluate them based on things that really matter when you're about to drop hundreds of thousands of dollars on a home. So first up, okay, how likely are they to be around in 5 years? Well, the fact they've been in business for over 45 years is definitely a positive sign, but you should know they only build about 400 homes per year, which isn't bad, but it's lower volume compared to some of the builders we've looked at. And that means if something goes wrong, okay, your options for resolution could be limited, right? Like with a national builder, it's going to have more infrastructure, more customer service departments, more legal resources. With a smaller operation like Altura, okay, you need to be aware you're most likely going to be dealing with like a local office, and that could mean slower responses or fewer resources if a warranty issue drags out. So that's something you want to keep in mind. It's hard to say exactly how well backed they are because they're run privately, but based on their size and the number of homes they build, I would give them a grade of a B- when it comes to long-term stability and backing. They've got a solid history, but limited scale. If you were driving down the street in an Altura Homes neighborhood, you'd notice a few things pretty quick. Like right off, you might notice that these are oversized lots, homes set back off the street. Now, architecturally wise, one of their homes could have like a single-story layout with a wide front-facing gable, a covered entry with double columns, big rectangular windows, and a hip-style roof. You might see another one that pops out with a steep hip roof, dormer windows, an arched entry, and a mix of brick and gabled accents. Then there's a house with a 3-car garage, an arched entryway, and a few front-facing gables with dormers above them, which adds a little more depth up top. One of the more eye-catching ones has a tall arched entry, several gables facing forward, and a rounded turret-style bump out with a full row of windows. And another has a combo of hip and gable roof lines, a tall entry with a transom window over the door, and a second-story bump out that sits right above the garage. When you look through Altura's floor plans, it's pretty clear that they mostly stick to single-story designs. You might find a 2-story here and there, but it's definitely not the norm for them. I mean, Altura's out there meeting a pretty specific niche, okay? If you think about it, many of the builders we've done reviews on, most of the time we're gonna tell you that they mostly sell 2-story homes on smaller lots, okay? Altura is your alternative here. This is the opposite. They do mostly 1-story homes on oversized lots. So when I get buyers who want new construction, they're focused on a 1-story only, all right, I think Altura, right? When I get buyers who want new construction on land with a mid-range budget, again, I think Altura. One thing I have noticed though is that you don't get a lot of high-end fixtures. You're getting the big backyard, but maybe a more standard bathroom. Like we've had buyers in the $700,000 to $800,000 range who love the land, that they love the 1-story, but they ultimately decide against Altura because the homes weren't elegant enough. And like I said though, Altura is out there meeting a specific need. And they do have some great model homes that you can walk through that'll really give you a good feel for how all of it comes together. For the range of exteriors and how they mix up their elevations, I would give Altura a solid B. Okay, they've got some variety, and the homes don't all look cookie cutter, but nothing really pushes the envelope either. But what if you wanted to do a new build with Altura? Okay, what would that look like? Well, you're gonna start any new build with deciding on a floor plan, right? So let's start there. Across the 12 plus active communities they're building in right now, each one tends to have anywhere from like 4 to 9, somewhere in there, floor plan models available. So realistically, you're probably looking at about 6 to 8, that you might actually consider per neighborhood, kind of depending on the phase and the local demand. Most of these, like I mentioned earlier, most of them are going to be single-story homes. I mean, while they do build some 2 stories, the single-story options are way more common. Layouts are usually going to fall in the 3 to 5 bedroom range with 2 to 4 bathrooms and either a 2 or a 3-car garage. Once you've decided on a floor plan, now it's time to think structural customization, okay? This is where things get a little more nuanced. According to Altura's own language, you can personalize rooms and finishes, and you're encouraged to pick a plan first, of course, then call for options. So yes, you can definitely do your new build, but I should tell you, okay, their website really doesn't list any detailed menu of what those options actually are. That said, it does sound like you can make minor structural tweaks, like common options like swapping standard doors for sliders or upgrading a bathroom setup. For more moderate adjustments, like adding garage space or slightly altering a bathroom and closet layout, it's possible, but it seems to be more case by case and something that you have to work out with their home specialist. Now, as for significant changes, like adding a room, bumping out walls, or putting a second story on a plan that doesn't already have one, all right, that's very unlikely, okay? They don't offer these full custom plans like, bringing in your own architectural drawings. You'll see that Altura emphasizes their home specialists a lot, okay? They're gonna be there to guide you through floor plan selection and finish choices. But overall, their support seems mostly limited to like modest layout changes and choosing materials, so not all out customizations. Now, let's talk non-structural customization. Okay, this is going to be more about design. Their home specialists will walk you through interior design choices, things like color palettes, different finishes, cabinets, countertops, flooring, and lighting. They also mention the inclusion of smart home add-ons and other energy efficient features. They describe the process as custom feel without the custom price tag, which implies a robust variety of design selections, but the exact number of options isn't shown online. And there's no design studio or gallery to preview. In fact, the website doesn't even have a dedicated interior gallery or a clear visual inspiration section. So what you do get are model home photos and a 3D interactive model home tour tied to each community page. So if you're trying to imagine what's possible, that's where you would want to look. Otherwise, a lot of this happens in person or during a consultation. When it comes to lot size and location, keep in mind this is your builder that's gonna offer 1-acre home sites. Like, not all of them have it, but plenty do. And one thing that really stands out about Altura, and I mentioned this before, is that you can get a new construction home on a full acre for less than $550,000. Okay, that is rare, especially in Texas where lots tend to be shrinking, in many new developments. So if we are grading Altura on overall customization, I would land it like a C+, okay? They do build from the ground up, and that's awesome, okay? But their finished choices, okay, there's just so little that you can see or research up front. Most of the flexibility comes only after you're in the process, and for buyers who want transparency and they want control from day one, that can be frustrating. Now, Altura offers a warranty, of course, so let's go ahead and talk about that. You're gonna have your typical 1-year warranty on craftsmanship. So if a door doesn't close properly, your baseboards separate, paint starts to peel, those are gonna be covered within that first 12 months. For systems coverage, like electrical, HVAC, and plumbing, Altura offers the 2-year warranty. Inside their warranty portal, they actually list out the emergency contacts for vendors who service these parts of the home. And because these are licensed third-party professionals, obviously it suggests that Altura contracts out those repairs rather than handling them with an in-house crew. Now for the big one, structural coverage, Altura gives you a 6-year structural warranty, which protects against major framing or foundational issues. The structural warranty itself is backed by Structure, which is a third-party warranty provider commonly used by regional builders in Texas. So if there's ever a major structural problem, you'll probably be dealing with Structure and their subcontractor network not Altura directly. They call this setup a 1-2-6 warranty policy, which is fairly common, but it's not particularly impressive compared to other builders that we've reviewed. It gets the job done, but there's nothing that stands out as particularly generous or forward-thinking. Between the reliance on outside vendors and the basic industry standard timeframes, we're giving Altura's warranty coverage a grade of a C. Okay, it's functional, but there's not a lot of added peace of mind built in. One thing you'll notice right away with Altura Homes is that many of their floor plans show up in multiple communities. Like, they don't design a unique set of plans for every neighborhood. So if you fall in love with a plan, odds are good you'll be able to find that same plan or a variation of it offered in several different areas. For example, plans like Sentinel, Brimstone, and Dartmouth show up across communities, okay, like Berkshire Estates, Creekview Farms, and Heritage. So what does that mean for you? Well, basically, if you're drawn to a particular layout, you've got some flexibility. You're not locked into just one neighborhood. A popular plan like the Langford might be offered in 3 or 4 different communities, depending on how versatile it is and what square footage range it falls into. In terms of geography, Altura is strongest in the northeast quadrant of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but they do stretch a bit into other directions. In the Greenville area, northeast of Dallas, you'll find communities like Forest Ridge, Creekview Farms, Mallard Point, Stone Creek, and Bridge Point. In Rockwall County, due east of Dallas, they've built in the Heath Golf and Yacht Club and Heritage. Head southeast to the Mesquite Forney area, and you'll find Berkshire Estates. They've also got homes in Red Oak at Summerwood Estates, in Caddo Mills at Fox Landing, and Waxahachie at Levant. But when you zoom out and you look at their overall footprint, you'll notice a pattern. Most of their neighborhoods are north or northeast of Dallas, with just a few scattered in the southeast. They don't build anywhere west of Dallas. All right, we're talking absolutely nothing in the Fort Worth area. So if you're house hunting on the west side of the Metroplex, Altura is not going to be an option for you. Because of that limited geographic spread, especially the lack of reach in growing areas like Fort Worth or your northwest suburbs, okay, we're giving Altura a grade of C for location diversity. Strong presence in the east, but not much else. Altura Homes has about 70 featured listings on their new home search page, which is going to give you a decent sense of what's available right now. Okay, so if you dig into each of their active communities, you'll find that most have somewhere between 2 and 7 move-in ready homes listed at any given time. So if you're hoping to skip the build process and you just want to move in quickly, there are options, okay, but you're gonna need to be flexible on location and floor plan. This is important because many times you'll find a floor plan you like in a community you don't like. Maybe the layout is perfect, but the commute's too far. So then the question becomes, what are the odds you'll find that same home in a different community? All right, with Altura, there's a reasonable chance, since, as we mentioned earlier, many of their floor plans show up in multiple neighborhoods. But because each community only has a handful of quick move-in homes, okay, it still might not be a perfect match in both layout and location. Okay, Altura isn't sitting on a huge stockpile, all right? They only have like under 100 total move-in ready homes, even across all their communities. So while they're not super low volume, okay, they also don't operate at the high volume scale of some of the bigger national builders, where you'll see like 300 or more quick move-ins on the market at one time. Considering that, keeping that in mind, we're giving them a grade of a C in terms of inventory and their move-in ready availability. All right, it is decent for a smaller regional builder, which is what you're getting here. But if you're hoping for just tons of options, okay, you may run into some limitations. But how much is an Altura home gonna cost you? Okay, so let's talk about prices for a little bit. Altura has a pretty broad range when it comes to pricing, okay? We're talking almost a $500,000 spread. On the low end, the lowest listed home is $243,363, and that's for the Richland model at the Stone Creek community. Now on their high end, the most expensive listing right now is at the Heritage community, and that's a Hayden B model priced at $733,780. So across the board, Altura's price range spans from the mid 240s to the mid 730s, which is going to cover your entry level as well as move up buyers. Stone Creek is the go-to community if you're budget conscious. And then on the flip side, Heritage is where you're going to find their most expensive listings and larger homes. Now, even though that $490,000 spread sounds substantial, In the world of new construction, it's not the most dramatic range we've seen. Okay, so some builders will span like nearly $1 million between their lowest and their highest listing. So based on their pricing, diversity alone, we're giving Altura a grade of a B. They hit some core price tiers, they absolutely do, but the spread isn't quite wide enough to give them a higher mark. Now let's talk about their Google reviews for just a minute, okay? Altura's highest rated community is Creekview Farms, which boasts a perfect 5.0 rating, but that's based on just 2 reviews. In total, Altura has 4 communities rated 5.0, though 3 of them only have a single review each, okay? So the sample size here is pretty small. Most of their other communities have 1 or 2 reviews, and 3 of them don't have any reviews at all, so it is kind of hard to get a full picture. The lowest rated community by far is Berkshire Estates, sitting at a 3.5 average based on 12 reviews, which also happens to be the community with the most feedback overall. Now, one of the more critical reviews from Berkshire Estates called out the paint job and overall move-in readiness. The buyer said that the home wasn't really ready at walkthrough, with a lot of touch-ups needed afterward, and that the painters seemed to do a half-hearted job, leaving cracks and even old stains on the walls that took weeks to fix. They also mentioned that right on move-in day, a closet rack started falling apart. So while they loved the home itself, they felt the contractor's quality needed serious improvement, and that homes should be as perfect as the model home before closing. Another review from the same community pointed out similar problems, especially around the finishing details like paint quality. These comments suggest that the homes might look great at first glance. The final touches, though, can sometimes fall short. So grading Altura's communities is tricky, these Google reviews, right? Because there just aren't that many to rely on. Out of the 5 communities that do have reviews, about 80% scored above 4.5 stars, which is pretty strong. But again, you gotta remember, this is a limited number of reviews, so it's tough, it's hard to draw firm conclusions here. For now though, I would give their overall community ratings a grade of an A-, okay? The positive feedback is encouraging, but the small sample size and some rough reviews at Berkshire Estates hold them back from a higher score. In Altura Homes contracts, you'll find that they charge a penalty of $150 a day if you don't close on time, so it's definitely important to stay on schedule to avoid extra costs. Another key point to know is about appraisals. If the appraisal comes in lower than the contract price and you're using a conventional loan, you're on the hook, okay? You're not gonna be protected in that situation. Now, this is pretty much the norm with new construction, but it's still something you need to know. Altura also has a convenience clause in their contract. Fairly typical to see these in our new construction contracts. If you're not familiar with what that is, okay? Basically, it allows the builder to cancel the contract at their own convenience. Now, when it comes to tax proration, this is another big issue that we run into with new construction. Altura bases this on the last known value in tax rate. And that can be an unpleasant surprise because they can end up underpaying at closing, and then you face a higher tax bill once the appraisal catches up with the new construction. All in all, this is a pretty normal builder contract setup with terms that you'll see across many builders. There's nothing unusually harsh or overly generous either, okay? So considering all this, we would give Altura's contract terms a grade of a B. I really make sure you understand those appraisal and tax details so you don't get caught off guard. So that's the full picture on Altura Homes, okay? The good, the bad, the stuff you really want to watch out for before signing on the dotted line. If you thought this deep dive was helpful, we have a whole playlist of builder reviews just like this one that you can check out right here. In the meantime, this is Wendy Pennell, and I will see you there.